Sometimes people suck. My name is Jim Bach. I'm your host at Dirty Little Secrets. I'd like to welcome the always beautiful, feisty, bane of my existence, and the object of my desires, Kayla Bach, my wife, today's co-host. We're going to talk a little bit about human nature and what makes people tick, and see what transpires. Not sure exactly what's going to happen here, but we'll do our best to help people see some things that they perhaps haven't seen before, and some of the characteristics that all humans exhibit, and how gross it can truly be. And we're going to talk about universal principles. And it seems that one of the principles in life, and I heard the story, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but they did a sort of study with the people that survived Auschwitz. And they saw and discovered that it wasn't the people that were healthiest, strongest, youngest, most fit, smartest that survived. It was the survivors were people that had purpose, that wanted to turn around and use that experience to help other people or to make sure it didn't happen again. And it seems that most people that are lost in life, when they do find some purpose, they have meaning in their life, and it brings to happiness. Most people, I think, are misled, thinking that if they make a lot of money and they have prestige, power, that sort of thing, they're going to find themselves living a happy life, and that doesn't seem to be the case. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think Dr. Jordan Peterson really sums it up pretty well. It's that what's happening now in society is that there's sort of like this epidemic of people with no purpose whatsoever. It's worse. It's not that they have bad purpose or a misunderstanding of what their purpose should be. It's that they have none at all. They have no aim. And he talks about the importance of just taking aim at something. Even if it's not what really is going to bring about the best results for you, at least if you're taking aim at something, you can course correct along the way, or even when you get there. But the most dangerous thing is not having that aim, not having that purpose to guide you through.
You know, it used to be that people would grow up and want to be a doctor or lawyer or nurse or mom or dad or gardener or guardsman or something at some point of purpose in life. And now, are you saying that now people don't even have that?
I think that we really live in a society that is very theoretical at this point in time. Even like the things that people study in school, it's like it's nothing material. You know what I mean? Like gender studies. That's not a material thing. That's not a tangible. You know what I mean? You don't walk away from that with a skill. You walk away with that with ideas, which is, I mean, ideas are great. Ideas are wonderful, but
they don't lead to action.
Like what are you going to do from there? Where are you going with that? You know, it's like we live in such a society. It's people my age, people that are younger. We grew up in a much different way, in this way that's supposed to be more connecting, but in truth is more isolating, where everything is on. So many of our interactions are just not face to face, not real. They're online. It's not real. Do you know how many people I consider friends that I swear to God I've never met in my entire life? Probably couldn't pick them out of a crowd, but I know them from the internet, and in like my mind, they're like, that makes me friends with them. I know nothing about these people besides the memes that they post.
So how lonely would it be if you lost your phone?
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? And I'm like,
are you saying I'm like the only one? That's
No,
a pretty
like,
empty fucking world.
I'm a more grounded person. Like, luckily, I do have real tangible people in my life. Like, but I'm not, like, especially since COVID, like, even people that just work from home now, like, you don't even have the freaking office water cooler. You know what I mean? Like, you have nothing. You're just isolated, and it's so easy to stay isolated. You don't have to go to a gym to work out. You know what I mean? You could look up something on YouTube and work out at home. You can get your groceries delivered. Like, they just keep making more and more reasons for you to not actually interact with other real live human beings, and that is so crazy. So,
what's the blame for this? What
do you mean? What's the blame for? I mean, it's a necessary. I don't know if it's a necessary. Like, technology is just what it is, and it's only right. Like the pendulum, I think, is going to keep swinging that way. We're obviously heading towards that with more AI and, like, freaking, we're talking about making robots that we could just, like, interact like that. So that's, robot nanny is going to raise our children, which is fucking crazy.
How soon?
I know. On the one hand, it's like, wow, that's not a bad idea. But it's like that, the pendulum is going to swing, and then I would hope that it swings back as it does in every, like, we're talking about principles. Like, that's a principle. Like, the pendulum swings one way, and then it swings back the other way, and it's going to it sort of just keeps doing that till the end of time, I suppose. We haven't gotten there yet, so I don't know. But,
do you think that's connected with the school shootings, or do you think it's the psych meds that do that, or just everybody seems to have a diagnosis? Is that, I think the culprit maybe is a big pharma trying to push drugs, or is that part of the problem, or what do you think?
Well, I certainly think that as far as disconnect, like a disconnection from fellow human beings, it's, it's hard for me to speak on because I've never taken a psych med. I've never. So I can't say, like, well, obviously that would make you feel disconnected. Like, in my mind, yeah, obviously that would make you, like, isn't it numbing you out to, like, what's going on in your life? That's what I would think. But I don't know. I don't have that experience, so I can't really speak on that.
Okay.
I can't speak to that.
So, what do you think of this microdosing? Nowadays, I went to this class last night, and there's a very well-known, it was a psychologist that was a member of this sort of class who was seeking to expand her knowledge and experience in life, and spent 2 hours doing it. I committed for 2 hours for the next 9 months, and one of the longest standing member of the group is a professional. It's like fucking doing mushrooms. Okay, and I guess that's where we're at. I mean, Joe Rogan's taking mushrooms. I mean people are just getting fucking high. I don't know if that's something good or bad, or what the hell are the 60s back here?
So there's a difference. So, and again, this isn't really something I can speak to. I'm in recovery and cannot ever safely take any substance, so microdosing sounds like hell. I would like to macrodose at best, you know what I mean? But I think there's a really fundamental difference between something like an SSRI and mushrooms, because it's just, like I said, one is sort of to put it politely, perhaps we'll say balancing you out.
Mm-hmm.
And the other, people really seem to believe it, and I can't knock their experience, but it, like, opens up to, like, another level of consciousness that makes them feel more connected with everybody around them. It's the complete, like, opposite side. And if that's the way they want to do it, like, by all means, go for it, I guess. That's not something I can partake in. I found other ways to connect with people. Just, like, being as honest as I can, I suppose, and trying to be real and not really everybody who knows me knows I'm I'm pretty fucked up. I have a horrible sense of humor. You know what I mean? But those are people that I feel I could totally be real with, and I feel like a wonderful safety and connection with them for the most part. You know, the people that I think I feel realist with are honestly like a lot of my jujitsu people. And that's that comes down to science. It's like, you know, you're sharing oxytocin with these people. You know, these people are releasing oxytocin in you, which is the love hormone. So of course I'm going to feel safe with them. I'm going to feel super, super connected because we're like, you know, keep jujitsu gay. We're just like, our bodies are just on each other. Our sweaty bodies are on each other for, you know, an hour and a half straight. And then like afterwards, like, yeah, I love you, you know. And it's wild because on the one hand, we're trying to murder each other like as much as we can. But on the other hand, it's like, it's the most connection that probably any of us are going to get in a day, really, with another person. Like, especially in society today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, COVID made people afraid to hug. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how many places can you be this close to somebody for, you know? So yeah, that's my version of microdosing, I suppose. But as far as, you know, microdosing is completely different. That's just like a different.
Okay. I'm not sure how I got off on that tangent, but as far as I don't know what principle that is, but as far as what was the first principle we're talking about?
So we were talking about just purpose and what aim, you know, taking aim at something, which I think is really important. You have to have an idea of where you're going.
Well, how many people in your life have no purpose?
Oh, I could think of one right off the bat. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, and how does it make you feel about them or think about them? You know, what kind of respect do you have for people?
So the one person who's like very close to me, I get enraged talking to them because they just have nothing going on in their life. Not a single thing. And I don't understand that. I just don't. I am no like model human being or anything, but I feel like on a daily basis I am trying to make moves in areas of my life to be better every single day.
Okay. So when you say them, that's not like a pronoun, is it?
That's not a pronoun.
So it's a him or her,
yeah.
And you don't want to disclose who it is because they might watch this. So some friend of yours, colleague, whatever, is sort of, you feel as though he or she is stuck.
Barely existing.
Okay. And,
merely existing.
Are you talking about me?
No.
Okay. How do you know how high in that scale of 1 to 5 I was? Okay, and that's fine.
Listen, there are things that you do that I was, even last night it was bothering me because I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything right now. You're not trying to make your situation better. Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but that's fine.
I can go off on it if you want.
No,
we don't have to.
That's okay. So purpose. So what's your purpose?
What's my purpose?
Uh-huh.
To raise my children to be competent. I think my highest purpose is to raise my children to be competent and kind human beings. I think that is my highest purpose in life.
Okay.
Underneath that, the principle that I live my life by is that every interaction that I have with a person, I have to try my hardest to leave that situation in better condition than it was when I arrived. I need to be of service to people as much as possible. So I guess purpose-wise, that's like, that ties into the first one. Like, what I think I could do best for humanity is to raise competent and kind human beings that will, in turn, create competent and kind human beings. Also, like, breaking off, like, generational trauma, letting the things that happened to my great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, me, not happen to my children. That's
breaking the chain. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That can't, that's how I ensure a better future forward, because hurt people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like those things are sort of like the top of my purpose chain, right? Whatever you put at the top of like your purpose chain, right? Like whatever you're like, that's it. That is your God. Whether or not you know it. Like that is your God.
Mm.
And so if you're not comfortable with that first thing being your God, you gotta like figure that shit out. You gotta put someone else above it, or you need to come to terms with like, hey, I'm a shitty person. And I think like money is like the number one thing that's my purpose. Like, then money's my God. Are you okay with that?
Okay, without like really solid role models and parents, do you think, how do people ever achieve that?
Well, there is a generation of men that are purposeless in that don't know what to do, and men especially, like, if they don't have a purpose, they destroy. They just destroy, and that doesn't mean they're going to go like burn down cities, but they're going.
Oh, they're doing that.
Oh, yeah, but they can't, like, men really, really, truly need to be molded, right? Like they need to be molded and made fit for society. Otherwise, they implode and they take things out with them.
Okay, so there's a lot of talk lately about low test guys. What is it? What does that mean?
So,
as opposed to high test, or
are
we talking about testosterone? Are we just talking about fucking pussies?
We might need to cut this out and put this in a later episode, because I don't know what this has to do with principles exactly. But
it's purpose.
Low T men, and I don't necessarily mean that they actually have low testosterone, but it's like these men with no principles, with no purpose, or perhaps a really twisted sense of purpose, they come across as being maybe, I don't know how to put it, because I don't want to say it. It's maybe they come across as being what do I want to say? The gentle keeps coming to my mind, but that's not
Metro?
what I mean. No, stop. I'm not talking like that. I'm talking about harmless. They come across as harmless. And there is nothing more dangerous than a harmless man. I truly believe that. They are the ones who will be the first to turn. Thanks to the internet, you get to see horrible freaking videos of everything all the time. And, like, what about all these videos of, like, subway crime in New York? And it's like, how many times is, like, a woman being, like, attacked or harassed, and the dudes around are just, it's just not their fucking problem. It's just not their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then at what point does it become, might as well join in? You know what I mean? Like that's what I think about when I think of like a low T man. Like they're not stepping up. They're not, and that's like a physical, example of one. But like ideologically too. Like how many men are just not willing to stand up and say what they believe in, and how quickly is that going to destroy the lives of everybody around them, whether or not you know it. We all live our life by certain principles, and we're going to talk about the importance of taking aim, finding purpose, and what principles sort of apply universally to basically any situation that you can think of.
Okay, why don't we start with like simple, easy ones, supposedly that we learned as children. How about lying? Right. I don't think lying's a good thing.
Lying is supposed to be bad.
Okay, when's it okay?
Why does it feel so good?
Kenna, why are you such a liar?
Yeah. That's probably because of a fundamental belief that nobody will like me if I tell the truth.
What do people lie about? I mean, I think everybody lies.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but it could be as basic as wearing makeup or dyeing your hair because that's not who you are. You're trying to look different. You're trying to present something differently than it actually is. Not that you should be naked. You're obviously going to wear clothes and gussy yourself up. But what would you not lie about, and what would you lie about?
What would I not lie about, and what would I lie about? Wow. Well, that's a loaded freaking question, because there's so much context to it, right? Like, who am I talking to?
Your 6-year-old son.
My 6-year-old son. I would lie that there's no candy in the house, that we're out of ice cream, that whatever store he's begging me to take him to is closed. I feel like those are perfectly acceptable lies.
And on the other hand, as the dad in the family, I'm like, no, there's no fucking Santa Claus. I couldn't hold out. I'm sorry. yeah, there's ice cream. You just can't have any. I don't know. I get so afraid that I'm going to betray the trust of my child that it's really pathetic that even a white lie.
I mean, ideally, right, in an ideal world, I wouldn't lie about anything. I would just tell the truth because that is what is virtuous and that's what, that's what should be done. But, there are times when is telling the truth going to be more harmful, I suppose? Or is it gonna... It's almost like when there's something wrong with how somebody's looking, it's like if they can fix it in 5 seconds, you say it. If it's something they can't fix in 5 seconds, you don't tell them. You know what I mean? If it's something like, oh, you have a little bit of lipstick on your tooth, right? Like, okay, yeah, like, fix that. But if it's like, hey, you have a giant pimple in the middle of your forehead, like, you don't say that because it's not something they can fix in the next 5 seconds, right? So, like that sort of
I don't know how to draw that line.
I know. Trust me, I know that.
Because I'm always saying stupid shit. I'm like, absolutely. Oh my God, what the fuck happened to you? I don't even know how to do it. I'm so pathetic. I certainly can lie, and I certainly could manufacture a story.
Oh, for sure.
But I
we practice every day to not be that.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I tend to try to be real with people and not manufacture something, even though it might be at times kinder. I find that it's beneficial to not have secrets as best I can because I don't want to because I'll get caught because I try to live a pretty transparent existence. Okay, so what's the danger of lying?
If you lie to everybody else, it's only a matter of time before you lie to yourself. And if you can't trust yourself, then who do you have in your corner? If you can't trust yourself,
I like it.
Then you're never going to be able to make the right decision. Maybe that is why I second guess every little decision I make all the time. I constantly go to outside sources for reassurance, but I don't even trust that either. So that is the fundamental problem with lying. Besides that, the other problem is that nobody fucking trusts you. Right?
Yeah,
your lies get figured out. They get found out. They always do. At some point, they always do. And then you have nobody. You're alone. Mm-hmm. And you should be. Yeah. That's all there is to it.
Good. Now, what about stealing? Stealing is, I guess, another sort of principle that is sort of a bad thing. What are your thoughts on taking something that's not yours?
It's not good. Doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. For a second it does. And then it's like, then again, it's the same as lying. The problem with doing the wrong thing is that you're waiting for somebody to find out. And then you live your whole life just looking over your shoulder and misinterpreting things people say because now you're convinced that they found you out. right? And it's not a way to live. It's not, you're not going to feel free. You're not going to be happy. No matter what you think you're taking is going to make you happy. It's going to fuck your life up more than not having it.
Got it. Yeah, I agree. What other principles? What about violence? What about hitting people or, physically hitting another human being?
Did you both consent?
Like
MMA, boxing.
Well, I think if somebody steals your car and you drag them out and kick them in the face, they consented by stealing your car.
Well, I mean,
or if they hurt a loved one.
So I don't disagree. But there's a difference between defense of yourself, your property, your family, and going out for retribution, retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that unfortunately the retaliation never quite feels as good as you think it's going to.
I would agree. I mean, I've had people in my life that have done horrendous things to me, to loved ones, where you think that if that sort of thing ever happened to you or someone you love, that your first inclination would say, I would kill them if that ever happened. If anybody ever, and when push comes to shove at the end of the day, I don't ever really see people taking that action because in hindsight, you're devastated in a horrible way when you're a victim of somebody's brutality or threats or just living in fear. One, you're already there, and I know firsthand engaging in terrible sort of behavior in harming another person, whether it's warranted or not, does not feel good.
No.
And thinking about it really is the thinking about it, because there's nothing I've ever done in my life where I've harmed another person that I felt good about it afterwards.
Right. I mean, so there is a sort of, I think, a human need for, I'm going to put this very loosely, violence. Whereas I think things like martial arts are really important to a person because, one, just the human, every animal engages in this, whether it's play or real life and death sort of situation. Every animal engages in it. And it's weird that we don't all that much. We let just children do it, and I think it's really important for children's development. They need to scrap every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to happen. It's teaching them so many lessons about life in that moment. So I think there is a need for it. We need to know where we stand against other people, whether or not we can defend ourselves. We need to learn how to defend ourselves because there are violent people in the world. And it's crazy to not be ready and able to defend yourself. But violence for the sake of revenge, violence for the sake of just simply hurting people is just not, it's not good. Now there's certain contexts where the retribution angle, people say they don't regret it, or we've all seen the sort of internet meme, throw your local pedophile in the wood chipper, that's where they go, and I can't think of one person that would, well, besides pedophiles, that would be against that, but you look at somebody
well, what a mess.
Gary Pouch, yeah, that's definitely not the easiest way to do it.
Handle the mess.
But Gary Pouch, who his son was raped by this man, and he was devastated by it, and he got drunk one day, grabbed a gun, went to where this guy was being, I guess it was the courthouse, the guy was being brought out of the courtroom, and just pulled the gun out, one-handed, without aiming or anything, while drunk, just shot the dude in the head, killed him. And I don't think he's ever regretted that one day in his life. And his son loves him for that, you know? And I don't know. If that were me, would I you know, how would I react to somebody victimizing my child? My bigger fear is that I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I wouldn't get violent. That's more of my fear. You know? It's like, I don't know. So, I guess it really depends on the context.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, you shouldn't hurt people. And anyway.
Well, both of us have been, you know, our history includes some abuse as
Yes.
children. And, you know, the only thing I did against one of my abusers is, you know, go crazy on the internet at one point. At the beginning of the internet, posting pictures and all sorts of stuff that, you know, was sort of crazy. Later in life, like, you know, 6 years ago or so, there was, you know, our old landlord, you know, threatened and stalked us, and you know, that was sort of a very scary, crazy situation. And, you know, a couple years after that, somebody else was making my life or our lives miserable and acting in a crazy way.
So here, let's share the principle there, because what we sort of talked about going through both of those situations was that when people act like absolute animals and are hurting people, first of all, they're rarely doing it to just one person.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a motherfucker to everybody, right? And it really just becomes a waiting game. I don't have to be the one to take the action to stop them, because there's so many other people out there that are going through this same exact situation, and one of them is going to take care of it. God's going to take care of it. Something's going to happen. And it just so happened that these two people that we're talking about were people who were currently in addiction or had previously been in addiction. And just sort of one of the principles there that we know of recovery is that it's very hard to stay sober or clean if you're acting like an asshole. And so it was just kind of like, hey, we waited out, dude. These guys are just, they're not going to be our problems very long. Like, they're going to relapse. It's going to be a thing.
I remember we were going through some real difficult times, and both these individuals talked some massive shit, made up some lies that were just very compelling and very scary, and it got to a point where there were people in our lives that were like, why would people say that? I'm like, I have no fucking idea why somebody would act like such a fucking asshole, a monster like that. And you know, one sort of mentor type person to me said, you know, the truth will always surface. It just takes longer than a lie.
Yeah.
And it does you know, it does make you stronger, but it's a very painful process waiting for the truth to surface and come, you know for the truth to come to light. And you know, well, I guess when somebody overdoses and dies, it's a pretty good indication that they were on the wrong path.
Yeah, they weren't doing well, you know, and you know, it is what it is. It just, but the, you know, that's another principle though. It's just like people that are acting like assholes, they're never doing it just to you, and that shit sorts itself out at some point. Like, if you're the one being victimized, you don't necessarily have to be the one to take the action to stop it. Now, that's not to say, like, don't defend yourself, whatever, right? Like, we had somebody stalking us, so we, you know, tried to get the police involved. The police were reluctant to do anything. We wrote to our state senators, we did everything we could, and then finally, like, you know, got a lifetime restraining order against them. And, you know, that was like the defense portion of what we did. But we didn't have to go any further than that.
Mm-hmm.
You could read between the lines there.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like a big pussy. I felt like I'm not doing anything to protect my family. I felt like I got so crazy in my mind that I felt as though I needed to take matters into my own hand. And I started to make some moves in a very, very sick and bad direction, where I started to orchestrate some plans of revenge, where it was sort of a game changer. It was sort of the possible outcome was really my life was going to be over if I acted on it, this guy was going to be very successful in destroying my entire life,
Yeah.
and which was his game plan, even if it cost him his life.
Yeah.
And I was able to sort of wade it through, and thank God I did, because at the last minute, it seemed to sort itself out.
Yeah.
Without any intervention on my behalf, and I'm sure there was a lot of people that were sort of relieved that the problem no longer existed. But it was a very scary proposition, because I always thought I was a tougher guy. I always thought that I could stand up to people that were sort of victimizing me, and really I was faced to a situation. I was in a situation where the only thing I could really do was to sort of end somebody's life, or to wait it out. And I felt as though I really, at many points I felt as though I didn't have a choice, and I don't know if I was a coward, but what I saw was that I was going to ruin many other lives if I took that action, and
including the people you were trying to protect.
Yeah, and it was just it was a very difficult situation, and some of it probably was fueled by pride, ego, and other parts of it were fueled by just me being terrified, and not being unable to sleep for months at a time. So anyhow, what other principles do we need to concern ourselves with to live a comfortable and happy existence?
As kids, you talk about like the basic principles we learn as kids.
Well, we could talk about love. We could talk about hate. We could talk about parenting. There's a lot of principles. I find it hard to believe. I see a lot of people on the internet nowadays who are anti-children, which seems pretty fucked up for any kind of animal.
They pretend that it's like child-free, right? Which is like, okay, you're not going to have kids. That's one thing, whatever. But like, some of these people are aggressively anti-children. Like, they hate the fact that children exist.
Well, they're anti-human then.
They hate the fact that children exist in public. A lot of these people, again, this is where like this parasocial, like, online is like a real place, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
There were times in my, just being way too online, that I interacted in these spaces, not agreeing with them, but rather, trying to point out, like, hey, this is fucking crazy. You're not child-free. You hate children, and that's very weird. Mm-hmm. Like, the most vulnerable subgroup of humans out there, and you hate them for just existing. They shouldn't be allowed in public. They shouldn't be, like, near you ever. Like, that's so weird. That's a you problem. That's an inside thought. You shouldn't share it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, a lot of times it boils down to, like, overpopulation. I'm like, all right, well, start with yourself. Jesus Christ. You're miserable. Start there. You think it's overpopulated? Take one out. Right now. Like, and nobody has to hear your fucking yapping. But, yeah, I mean, listen, there was a time when I thought I didn't want children. Now, if it were up to me, I'd have 12. You know what I mean? Like, I would just never stop. I really do love it, regardless. I mean, ask me at 3 a.m., I don't love it, but, like, I do really love it. So I can't exactly speak to it. Now, if people don't want to have children, that's up to them. Listen, that's, maybe they have some significant sort of trauma around it, and they think that them being a parent would not be a good idea. And all I can say to that is, like, okay, good. Like, if that is your decision and you're sound in that, like, then fine. But for the most part, other people's decisions don't really concern me, you know?
Okay, that's a good point. Other people's decisions don't really concern me, and I believe that as well. I mean, you know, we could take that as far as, you know, whether somebody steals, whether they lie, whether they hurt people. You know, to a great extent, I have a great laissez-faire attitude toward most people, so long as it doesn't come into my lane.
Yeah. And if there's some, it's a difference, perhaps, if it's somebody that I love and care for, or that is looking to me for guidance, then I might have something to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or if they're taking action if it's somebody close to me that's taking action that I know is like, hey, it's not something. For example, I know somebody who cheats on their partner. So that person and I will never have a close relationship. Because one of my principles is like, I'm not going to hang out with people that are doing things that I don't like, right? Like, I'm gonna associate. You are like the baseline of the people that you associate yourself with. So I'm not going to associate myself with people that are doing things that I don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something. That person and I will never be close friends. Will never be more than like, hey, how are you? How was your vacation? You know, like.
That's why I can't hang out with, like, people that are committing crimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I think deep down inside of me, although I might not be a liar, I am a criminal. I mean, as a little kid, I would steal shit all the time.
Yeah.
And then it was also a shortcut later in life, and I worked on Wall Street, and I was taking advantage of people. And that was sort of, you know, to me, now looking back, that is really stealing, and I didn't think it at the time.
Right.
And I have completely disassociated with people that act that way. And that utilize sort of
Because at a certain
pretense in getting, you know, closing the sale.
Yeah.
In the last episode when you interviewed me, I talked about, you know, serving God and just being a service, really, because that is what I have to focus on. And I think my human condition is much like a lot of people, is because I cannot stop thinking about myself and getting my needs met. I'm a basic sort of instinctual human being, where I live in complete and utter terror about life and what's going to happen. It's self-consumed or self-focused or self-centered fear, where I am so terrified about what other people think about me, because I'm a taker, really. At some, you know, if left to my own devices, if I go into a situation and I, you know, even a job, say I interview for a job and my purpose isn't to be a service there, to make it a better company, to sort of help it in any way possible, the organization or the people that are customers or patients or whatever you have at that organization, I'm going to just go there trying to collect a paycheck and feel like I'm getting screwed every fucking day and feel as though maybe I should steal, okay,
Yeah.
to even the scale, when my job ultimately is to be a service. And in that condition, I'm always early for work. And I always work longer, and I put in more effort. And whether I got paid or didn't get paid, it doesn't matter, because my purpose there is really just to beyond what I was hired for.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good every day about every situation I get myself into. So that's sort of my purpose, and how I got there really was just a lot of pain and wanting to, you know, trying everything else in the world, you know,
Yeah.
to feel good.
Well, but I would like to. So that's not the purpose, though. That's the principle, right? The purpose is, like you spoke about in the last interview that we did, the scale. Right? That's
to
that's the
to really
purpose.
to be more of a giver than a taker.
Exactly. And so the principle behind that is that in every situation you go into, you're going to be more of a giver than a taker. You're going to...
Yeah, well, what I have to do every day is I make a decision that my life is none of my business, and what I want doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And what I need to do is to focus on the needs and wants of other people in order to help them. And it was funny because when I went to nursing school, I was convinced that they accepted me because I was the only white guy. Okay, my grades were actually too low. I went back to school, I did like an online degree, and so I got my bachelor's, and one thing led to another, and it was just I was like a little bit lower than the average they were looking for, and it was a new program, and she, basically the dean said, "Oh, we accepted you because you were the only white guy and you fit the criteria." And so I got it, and it was harder than the first exam. I spent 80 hours and I was crying because it was so intense, and I made a decision that, hey, wait a second, I'm going to nursing school to be a service, to help other people. So I started recording all the lectures, and I started distributing the recordings to all the single moms and people there was a lot of people that didn't speak very good English, and I started handing those out, and it helped me as well. It helped me feel like I wasn't alone, and people appreciated it, and I would listen to the recordings, and I remember the night before graduation, we all went out and had dinner, and so many people came up and thanked me for helping them. And I ended up graduating with a 3.83 GPA, which is very high for me because I am a D student. I was involved in launching the Celexa website when they went live. It's antidepressant, and so I spoke to the senior brand manager and all the marketing folks on a regular basis while launching the internet presence. And their main target audience was women between the ages of 35 and 50. And this demographic seemed to be career women that were focusing mostly on having a professional career rather than having children. And that do you think that there might be some denying of furthering the human race that might play a role in that sort of is there some confusion there in your eyes, or is that too touchy or scary a subject?
Is this a touchy subject? Yes, I think it's very easy for we're talking about demographics, like you. Not you personally, but you have ruled shit forever, right? And so it's really easy to be like, well, these women are really getting uppity. Really stepping out of line, right? Like, that's crazy. It's fucking crazy.
Oh, I thought you were agreeing with me for a second.
No. First of all, without even discussing whether or not I agree with you, disagree with you, whatever. Let's just talk about the principle of the pendulum swinging. When you tell women they can't own property, they can't have bank accounts, they are literally nothing without a man, the pendulum is going to fucking swing as far as it can. Right? At some point.
Okay, I gotcha.
All right? And I kind of feel like men are reaping what they fucking sowed. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to feel bad when, the wife takes half of everything. It's like, fuck you. We weren't allowed to leave for so long. That's crazy. You're gonna whine about this? Go beat up your grandfather. It's his fault. Like, it's just not... Do not come at me. That's crazy. Okay. Going back, though. Okay. We can look at this in a human nature sense, which is that, or not even just human nature, animal nature, the nature of literally every living being ever is to reproduce. That is, our highest purpose.
Okay. I agree with that.
Cellular level. That being said, as we touched on before, that might not be what people want. Like, we are more evolved human beings, and for one reason or another, you know, whether it is like, hey, I had a really fucked up childhood, I haven't done the work to fix that yet, I don't know if I can. I don't want to have kids because I don't want to pass that on. Like, that is a perfectly reasonable situation. Now, you could look at that and that person's miserable and say, oh, it's because they didn't have kids. But maybe it's because they didn't handle the trauma that's making them not want to have kids. You know what I mean? It's like this real, like, chicken or egg situation there. Like, which one is, you know, the issue? And maybe people just don't want to have kids because they don't want to have kids. And maybe that's more of a purpose issue if they're miserable in life, you know? Why don't they want to have kids? Is it because they want the freedom to travel whenever they want and just sort of spend money how they want and have no real responsibility to anything or anybody? Well, what is their purpose in life? Right? What are they making their God, for lack of a better term? And, like, is that something that's going to bring about happiness on the journey?
You know, basically a society that has gone and tells men they can't be men. And well, what do you think? Where does that come from?
Well, so I'm not sure.
Is that part of the pendulum swinging the other way? You know, all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm wearing the fucking pants. Do what you're told, bitch. You know, is that part of the pendulum swinging? Okay. You know, and then all of a sudden a woman's trying to have a child at 50 because she feels empty and depressed because she picked a career. But I'm just trying to sort things out. I certainly want to...
Hold on. So I just want to state for the record, I don't think that every woman that doesn't have children is destined to be miserable. Or any man that doesn't have children is destined to be miserable. It seems like whenever we have this conversation, it always lands on the woman, how she's feeling, and we never talk about all the childless men who come and gone through fucking history. Like, or do we say that they're miserable?
Well, I think there's a hell of a lot of men that don't stick around to be a parent. Okay. But I'm just wondering. I mean, it seems as though there's two sides to the story, and there might be a sort of some joint responsibility with men and women to sort of look at family dynamics and what's necessary to keep a family together.
So, I want to say, boys can't be boys, men can't be men, whatever. Yes, you can. You got to first of all, again, find your purpose. Okay, because I think...
I guess society has sort of given being a man a bad name. Are you familiar with talks that go down that path?
Sure. For the most part, show me where this is happening in real life. Maybe a college campus. But, like, where is it really happening in real life? This is definitely like an online take. This is like something that, it's on Twitter, and if you don't want to see it, fucking log out. Like, it can't really get you. You know what I mean? So, that's sort of one way that I feel about it. But for anything in life, like, you can find your people. Create the fellowship you crave, right? You want a place where you can be a guy, whatever the fuck that means to you. Like, you can find that. You can find that in the world. But again, I think everything in life starts with, like, what is my purpose? What is my aim here? What is my goal?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I taking to get there? Like, what steps, what actions am I taking to get there? Okay. And it's in that journey that you're going to find the like-minded people. you're going to find what you are looking for so desperately in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be partners. That will be, romantic partners. But I think just far too many people just don't have any idea of what they're actually looking for or what their aim is in life. Right? Like, think.
Here, let me. I understand what you're saying, and I agree that there's plenty of people if you don't get stuck in a situation that's not working for you, which is not healthy for your future. But here, let me give you a sort of a quote that I think seems to have some merit, and I want to know your thoughts on it. This guy, a friend of mine, his name was Clancy. He used to say, he said. Women get married and they always try to change the guy, but never do. Guys get married and they want the woman to stay as she is, and she never does. Do you think that has any merit?
I could not possibly roll my eyes harder. Men. Oh my god, they're so victimized when they're asked to grow the fuck up and think about somebody else for once in their lives. Like, it's crazy to me.
Okay.
I know. It must be so hard for you guys. It must be so hard. I'm so sorry you guys have to go through that. That must be so difficult for you.
Oh, God, I've been
Grow the fuck up. Jesus Christ.
Well, the first half of that, she was really onto something.
Let me tell you something. Listen. It's like scientific fact. Like, men just mature so much slower than women. So much slower. You guys, your fucking brains are so stupid until you're like 32. Okay? And it seems to be, like, even worse now. It's crazy. It's wild. For the most part, all you're being asked is to fucking give a shit. Okay? And to, like, stop living just for yourself and the moment. And to think about the bigger picture. Right? And if you look back at the history of time, like, women are the keepers of tradition. They're the ones who are going out and gathering. They're making sure that the family is fed when you don't get your kill on your hunt. Right? And so men have this really short-term way of thinking. And women have a long-term, let's make sure that that we don't fall off the fucking wheels here, And you guys just, like, cannot fucking get with that. That is the craziest shit. That's all I want to say.
I'm sorry, yes.
It's so crazy.
Okay.
But think honestly.
No, I got it.
Do you think I'm wrong there? Like, it's.
I thought I was going to ask that, and you're going to finally see the light.
But seriously, from like from the beginning of time, right? That's what women did. They made sure they safeguard. Like, you guys go out for your kill, okay? But what are the chances that you guys don't come back, or you come back empty-handed? So what did we do? We went out and did the shit that's not as flashy as you guys, okay? But it ensures our survival. And so that's really, we're just having the same argument, but it's like, invest into a 401k instead of fucking buying fucking season tickets to see the fucking Eagles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's so wild. And it's like, hey, let's, like, buy a house. And you guys are like, what? If I do that, then, like, I can't go to poker night.
Dad's like, hey, kids, I killed this fucking bear. What did mommy do? Gathered a couple fucking berries.
So stupid. Berries that they love. They won't even eat the fucking bear, okay? Stupid ass. Anyway. Let's rewind a little bit. Create the fellowship you crave. Like, there's no better, you're talking about guys can't be guys, blah, blah, blah. Or, that's not you saying that necessarily, but that's what people say. Oh, men are shamed for being men, whatever. Like, bullshit. You can find your tribe, you know, and I'm gonna revert back to things that I know, like jujitsu. There's masculinity is so celebrated there, and it's not in a toxic way, right? Toxic masculinity, whatever the fuck that is. It's not in a toxic way. Like, how many dudes at jiu-jitsu are perfectly fine with getting beat up by like a 115-pound woman? Wow, she just fucking murdered me. You know what I mean? Like, but they're allowed to be. They're doing guy things. Like, it's you can't look at two guys rolling, right, and like not see like the virility and like the fucking like, you know, like flashes you back to fucking gladiator times. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, holy shit, like this is what guys do, you know? And you can find this stuff. You just have to just fucking look, open your eyes, get offline. Log out for a second. Right? Like, you're not gonna find it on fucking Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. That's where you might find out about it for a second, but like that's not where you're gonna find your fucking tribe. It's like, go out and experience things, meet people, touch fucking grass for a second. Right? Like, am I wrong here?
No,
It's fucking crazy.
I
People don't do that. Everything is online. Everything is like this virtual fucking. It's not real. It's not real. There's this rapper Tyler the Creator.
Pardon me?
There's a rapper named Tyler the Creator, and one time he tweeted, he said, "How the fuck is cyberbullying real? Just log off." He used a couple other words in there that I can't say.
Okay.
But it's like, this is the same thing. Like, just fucking, you know, so many people are like, oh, the left. Like, where does the left exist for you? Where does the left exist? Online. That's it. They're not at your fucking door. They're not harassing you on the way to work. Just log the fuck off. That's it. There's these people.
Well, I think where they might exist, and you can counter this any way you like, is in our school systems.
You know what? But here's the thing. How many people rely on the fucking school system to raise their children?
Way too many people.
And it's that you get what you fucking ask for here. You know what I mean? Like, you get, what the fuck? You gave up trying to raise your kids? Well then, congratulations, you fed them to the wolves. Good luck with it. Like, that's a you problem. Again, you can fix that. If you're afraid of that, you can sit down with your kids. You can have fucking family dinners with your kids and instill the values in that time. Like, my family did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's not...
I'm not disagreeing.
You can't brainwash a kid that's connected in with their family.
I don't think you can trust the school systems to really educate your children. I mean, our kids read at home, and you know, we help them do things at school.
When we have family dinners, we talk.
Isn't going to really take care of them. Just like you're not going to bring a kid to a doctor, you know, once a year, once every 6 months, and expect that doctor is going to care for the health of your child. You need to do that on a daily basis.
Right. With whole foods and, you know, a balanced diet and the right amount of sleep and everything else. You don't just, you know. But it is the society we live in today where people are just like, oh, whatever, I'll take a medication for that instead of fixing the problem, you know, and I'll just be on that medication to the rest of my life, and that's fine. That's a perfectly acceptable, you know, fucking, that's a perfectly acceptable alternative to, like, fucking exercising.
Okay. Is that okay for you? For your kids?
No. Get the fuck out of here. Never. Like I said, I really do try to instill, like, a healthy distrust for what you're being told. You shouldn't just automatically believe everything. You should really look into things. You should, you know...
Well, I think especially with ideas,
Yeah.
History...
Absolutely.
With medications, I think that you know, society has been lied to about history, about medications, about some traditions, about a lot, and I you know, because I come from a similar past where I couldn't trust my providers, so I you know, I as well have a healthy maybe an excessive distrust for.
Yeah, I probably
people.
have an excessive distrust, so I'm trying to mediate that. You know, I don't want my kids to be like, I don't know, I was about to say thinking aliens are real, but we found out that's fucking true, so, like, I don't know. You know, do I want them to be wearing tinfoil hats? No, not necessarily, but do I want them to question things they hear and really think deeply on things and sort of not take anything for just like granted that that's what it means? You know, no. So that, you know, that's something, and that's my way of rallying against ideologies that I don't believe in and that, you know, I don't think they should believe in. But at the end of the day, they're also going to become their own people. I can't.
Okay. So what other principles would tie into the topic of dirty little secrets? Maybe that other people don't really think about?
I think what people don't think about is that one principle, like every principle really just, it applies across the board. Like, in any situation, you just take the same set of principles and use it here for success, there for success, everywhere for success. You know, the principles that you're gonna, if you have sound principles, they'll work in family life and they'll work in career and they'll work in your extracurriculars and they'll work everywhere. So principles are universal.
Okay.
They can be applied to sort of any situation, and as long as they're sound principles, they will work and they will lead you towards the goal that you're trying to achieve. We really haven't talked about anger and resentment.
Okay.
I think a lot of people don't realize how totally, like, disconnected that can make a person from other people and from reality. You know? For example, we have, like, a neighbor. She's the angriest person I've ever met in my whole life. Like, it's just seething off of her at all times. Never caught her in a good mood.
Okay.
You know? And it's like, how many opportunities does she miss to make a friend? Or just have, like, a nice connection? Because it's terrifying. It's like, I am not going to step on any toes here. You know? And
Don't you think that, at least for me, my observation and my experience has been that most of my deep-seated anger or resentment or, you know, hostility comes from a sense of entitlement.
I think that the part that's really important to focus on is, what is my part? I'm angry at somebody. What is my part? Very few people are willing to do that. But it makes all the difference in the world. It's doing that. One, it allows you to just shift out for a second and you're like, oh, I'm not fully innocent here. And so maybe I don't have the right to be as angry as I am right now. Two, it'll help you just recognize patterns. The things that I do that really cause me to be resentful with one person, I typically see that I've got that going in a couple different areas. You know, and so you're talking about, okay, the people that have been most angry at you in your life were people that were over-dependent on you. Okay, but when you break it down even more than that, right, you had things that you did wrong, and they had things that they did wrong. And if you both just looked at that, it wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, that's the main, that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was looking at some areas where I felt as though I had patterns of facilitating a dependency,
Yeah.
which sort of like, you know, if I look at our old landlord, I was sort of took a very passive role in the relationship, which gave him sort of a dependency that I was going to go above and beyond. You know,
An idea that you would jump through any hoop for him.
Right, and when I pulled the rug out, he flipped the fuck out, which was really a sort of a dangerous situation for me to get myself in that situation. So, and I certainly had a resentment in that, and he had a resentment as well. But it was a very a really dangerous situation.
Now, how many other areas in your life, even around the same time, did you take a role like that?
Oh, probably countless.
Oh, I could think of at least one other one.
Yeah,
Two?
I can see some situations where I've been, I've facilitated a situation that didn't have to be the way it was. Now, let's look at you.
Okay.
And how often, where there might be a resentment, do you find it easy to find, to see where you're wrong?
Oh no. I've never found it easy to look at my wrongs. Not once. Not once. Even when I know it's the only option, it's the right option, it's the thing that's going to fix it, there is something that feels so good about anger for a moment. Right?
Intoxicating.
It really is. It gives me a sense of power. I think a lot of times in my life I felt very powerless. And so anger is one place where I can feel the full,
Oh, you're
when
good.
I'm
You're
angry,
good. You're good. You're very good at being angry.
But when I'm angry, I feel like I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, I can do it. So, it's very hard to not feed into that. What I'm good at when I'm angry is looking at every single thing that person has ever done wrong to me and stoking the fire. You know what I mean? I'm so
Photographic memory.
I'm so good at that. So good. I wouldn't call it photographic memory because I'm definitely embellishing things.
Oh, really?
Definitely.
Well, how harmful is that to other people that care?
It's horrible. It's horrible. People shouldn't put up with it.
What can they do?
Can punch me? Sometimes I just need to be hit.
Really?
No, but I mean...
Well, maybe you should stop doing jiu-jitsu.
What it comes down to is that's... So honestly, that's a place where jiu-jitsu helps because it's at least helping me feel that I can be powerful without anger. Because I'm not angry at jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
That's not... I'm laughing and smiling the whole time. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that's giving me some, power back in my life without being a harmful, something harmful to me and everybody around me. But the thing is, resentment is what will bring it all down.
Mm-hmm.
It will destroy everything. And so if I'm not going to look at my part in a resentment, if I'm not going to try to clean up my side of the street in a resentment, then I'm willingly saying it's okay if this whole thing burns to the ground.
I know for me that when I have conflict and somebody's upset with me, I have over the last many years tried to condition myself into seeing where I might be at fault and give them the benefit of the doubt in an attempt to, one, avoid conflict, okay, but also because I don't know when I'm right and when I'm wrong. Sometimes, I think in every situation I play and every bit of conflict, I've done something I could have done differently. And I think, in order for me to kind of let go of the sort of resentment in the fight, if I find that and I cop to it, it lets me walk away with more peace than I could otherwise.
Sometimes it just helps to imagine that they're human. And they're also going through it,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whatever, maybe this has nothing to do with me. Maybe it's just not my business. Whatever. Is it worth it? Is it worth it to get, upset about this right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, sometimes it's, sometimes it's like, listen, I'm not going to get upset about it, but I'm also, they seem to be engaging in a pattern of behavior which is just not something that feels good to me, and so I'm gonna create some distance.
Okay, so back to some basic principles before we close things out. Not necessarily dishonesty, But on the flip side, honesty and transparency. How do you think, how important is that, and what are your practices in those areas that make you less shady than you might otherwise be?
So, the goal, the ideal, is to be 100% honest with 100% of the people 100% of the time. But that's an ideal. And that's an ideal for perhaps an ideal world.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot live a life, me personally, and I think most people, but I cannot live a life where I am wondering when I'm going to be found out. And like I shared earlier, if I lie to you, then it's only a matter of time before I lie to myself, and then I can't trust even myself. If I can't trust myself, then who can I trust?
I tend to be a lot more transparent in some areas because I'm like, oh my God, I really need to be like open about everything because I can't have any wiggle room for me, not other people. I think most people on this planet are well equipped to handle life and don't have less black and white thinking.
Yeah.
But I think that I sort of overshare where I'm at, where I'm going, what I'm doing, as an attempt to make sure that I don't have like any secret worlds or anything going on, you know what I mean? Like the other day I told you, I was like, hey, this woman on Facebook was sharing that she wanted to be friends with her. I said, hey, I'm married. Like, fuck off, basically. And you're like, why are you telling me this? I don't give a shit, you know what I mean? I'm like, because I don't want to, I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm going to, like, try to make, something happen where I didn't want something to happen or ignore the signs of something.
Right.
So I don't know if you have any practices, in that area to principles that you abide by to keep yourself, transparent or not. Maybe most people, I don't think generally need to.
So I think for me, it's more of a, if I lie about little things, then I can lie about big things. So the inverse is true. If I tell the truth about little things, then I haven't started the slope of lies. Okay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I said it in one of our earlier takes that I don't know will make the cut, so I'm just going to say it here. Like the lies that are acceptable are like, if somebody's got something wrong with their appearance and it could be fixed in like 5 seconds, I could say it. You know what I mean? Oh, your lipstick is smudged, or, something like that. But if it's something that they can't fix in 5 minutes, right? Like, hey, you have a giant fucking mole. It's horrible, right? Like that's not something I'm going to say to somebody because that's not helpful.
Well, I remember my one of my mentors, a friend of mine, Tom Flynn, said we were going to go out for ice cream, and as this woman he invited her to come out for ice cream, and she goes, no, I got to lose 20 pounds. And he looks at her. Looks back and forth. He said, no, just 10. Which I thought was brilliant.
Sometimes old men can get away with more than they should. Okay.
So I remember
yeah, you say shit like that all the time, but you never go down. You go, no, 30.
No, I think I told you 7 pounds when I last asked, and I thought that was an accurate number.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay,
so glad.
I mean, anyhow,
okay.
And don't ever ask me what to wear.
The truth.
Do not ask me. Why do people come to me ask me what to wear?
Nobody does. We see your style. We know you have none. Nobody asks you anything.
The other day, Kayla dressed and undressed 19 times in the same outfits and asked me in between what to wear. And then finally, I didn't even look. I said, that one's perfect.
So I didn't wear anything that he said because he was like so stupid.
I only have one more topic. Do you want to?
Okay, hold on.
Go ahead.
The truth, right, without love is just, it's not It's not helpful, right? So that's sort of like a leading principle there. Like, I'm going to tell somebody something, and they're probably not going to like it. But am I saying it to help them? Or am I saying it to hurt them?
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree.
For example,
7 pounds to 7 pounds. Okay. The other thing is, as far as cleaning up messes, you know, we're obviously in life we do harm to people, and you know, I think it's, you know, for me it's necessary regardless of what harm I've done to somebody and or what they've done to me, because it's usually a tit for tat in my life where I'm thinking I should not pay this motherfucker back because he stole from me as well, or he took advantage of the situation, or he hurt me far worse than I've hurt him. How does that play in your life as far as being able to approach and deal with people that might have, you feel, might have betrayed you?
yeah,
And
I
I
mean,
you know, I guess for me, it's family, certain people that I grew up with, employers, coworkers, employees that you know, sort of you know, I have one woman that she'll never watch this in a million years, but she's worked for me for a while, and you know, I just can't stand her. Just fucking can't stand her ever, you know. And I try to be nice, and I continue to try to be nice, and I pay her. If there's nothing for her to do, I just send her home. I say, I'm just going to pay you for the day. You can leave. There's nothing for you to do, rather than making her sit and suffer in the office, you know. And hope that in some way will improve the relationship. And anyhow, I try to, you know, it used to be if you knew if I was taking you out for a steak dinner, I hated your fucking guts, because I would take everybody out for a steak dinner that was just like a complete fucking jerk off to me. And I don't know, you know, if that's the best way of handling things, but I certainly feel better afterwards doing something for somebody who I feel has betrayed me. Do you live by any principles in that department, or how do you handle situations where somebody's betrayed you? How do you get to the other side of that?
so I certainly try to clean up my side of the street, because if I don't, then I'm just going to be avoiding that person for the rest of my life, which again is another form of always looking over my shoulder or feeling like I can't be free. But at the same time, like, I'm not trying to taste shit twice either. So I can clean up my side of the street without saying, you know, continuing the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, I can clean up my side of the street and then break things off. But if I don't clean up my side of the street, it doesn't. I have to do that. That is like, and that could be as simple as just like acknowledging. It could be as simple as acknowledging what I've done wrong, but I also have to make sure that in doing so I'm not hurting them. Again, truth without, you know what I mean? If I'm like, you know, saying to an ex-boyfriend, oh, well, you know, I'm sorry for cheating on you, but he didn't know it, and he had no inkling of it, then that's not helpful, right? That's just making him feel even crazier.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to do it in the right way. I have to do it. I can't harm further. But it could be, you know, financial restitution. It could be you just admitting, like, hey, you're not crazy. I did those things so that I gaslit you about it. I'm not going to do that again. There are some people that I have tried to make them made the initial amends sort of approach. I tried to reestablish the relationship. It was clear to me that it was not going to be a good situation, and then so that was that, and I backed off significantly. And every now and then I will try to reopen that door and see if that person has grown in any significant way. If they do, cool. If they don't, there's really nothing else to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I certainly am not buying like steak dinners for everybody that I hate. I don't think there's a lot of people that I hate. Are there a lot of people that I hate?
A couple.
Yeah, I feel like I get a pretty good sense of who a person is right away.
Oh, you're much better than I am.
Yeah,
I
can find a creep from a mile away.
You certainly see people way faster than I do in respect to not being
loyal,
a good person.
Being,
right? Yeah. I think I don't think you're as good for yourself as you are for me. I think you're way more protective of your family and your loved ones than for yourself, because I see you sort of befriending some people that I wouldn't throw a stick at.
Yeah.
Not terribly so, but I think you find out pretty quickly. But I see things that you don't see because it's you.
Yeah.
I think we all have blind spots.
I think my big blind spot is thieves.
Really?
Yeah, remember when I hired that guy?
Yeah,
and he stole my mom's Movado 5 seconds into a shift.
Yeah.
She was like, I wouldn't hire him. I was like, he is. I interviewed him. He is perfect.
Her
He's the
and her mother.
Perfect guy. First shift he steals.
Well, he didn't rob me though. Thank you.
No, but that's yeah. I certainly do have blind spots for myself. I guess we all do, right?
Okay. So this has been another episode of Dirty Little Secrets. I want to thank you, Kayla. We have some interesting episodes coming. We sort of, tried to figure out what to do. We want to pump out some episodes, keep the momentum going, and see what happens. I think this was a very fruitful talk for me. I feel much closer to Kayla than I have in a month or two or year. No, but it was very good. I tend to forget how much I love people and how much they mean to me and how special they are and where they're at in the world without sort of having conversations like this. But hopefully it helps somebody else, which is the game here. And anything you have to say in closing?
Thank you for having me. Hopefully Jim and I will be starting another podcast soon where he and I will be like the permanent co-hosts. So be on the lookout for that, maybe.
Yeah, well, we have a name for it.
We'll talk about that later, I guess.
Okay, we'll see how that goes.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And
but I do have some more episodes in the pipeline. We have a hypnotherapist. Is that tonight? I'm supposed to do a Zoom call?
Yes, in 30 minutes.
Oh, forgot all about that. Just they want to talk to me a little bit, have some confidentiality questions. There's going to be some patients being hypnotized about some child.
Oh, this is going to be so much like the movie we watched the other night.
Oh boy. Anyhow, well, I want to thank everybody who made it this far, if anybody made it to the end. Appreciate it very much. And have a great day. Thank you. Take care.